So we are then. Transfer window is open. West Ham busy. I mean, it's a big month for West Ham. This is a big month. If West Ham want to start showing that we're not writing off this season, which I think a lot of people are starting to feel that way, that the club are effectively going, oh well, we ain't going to get anything. Let's just plod along, and we're not going to get relegated. That kind of mindset. Then the club need to do something and sort this month out and get it right. And that, I'm talking about not only the playing staff but the managerial one as well. You know how I feel about that. I desperately want to see West Ham make some changes because this season is, well, it's been dire, isn't it? Let's be honest. But we have had an update from XWH employee on the situation. We've got a few things going on in terms of player, talking about certain players leaving and a few that could be coming into the club. So I'm going to just give a quick sort of summary on where we are in terms of a few key bits I think that are quite important to talk about in terms of the early days of this window and what West Ham are trying to do. So Rodriguez, as we understand it, is a player that West Ham want to get rid of. The player wants to go back to Spain. I think Betis is his actual preferred destination. I think that could possibly happen. I really do. I think West Ham will try and cut their losses in there. We brought him in on a free, a crap signing, let's be honest. He's not done anything, as he's been way off the pace in terms of the pace of the Premier League. He just can't keep up with it. So I feel like West Ham are going to do what they can to move him on. Another disappointing signing, I think, to add to the list of a few this summer. Not to say it's all been disastrous, but he's definitely one I think that West Ham will look to cut their losses pretty quickly. And when I say cut their losses, but I think if we can get a couple of million quid from him, I think West Ham will do it and move him on. Nicholas Füllkrug is another player that West Ham will be dying to move on and to try and get some recovery on that cost. I mean, we spent £27 million on this player. A disastrous signing. No two ways about it. Another striker to add to the list that's failed at West Ham. He's not settled, didn't want to be here. But for me, this really sits with Tim Steidten, this one. It's a really bad move and a bad look for him. In fact, he pushed that signing through, said he would fit in very well at West Ham. Well, that hasn't happened, has it? I mean, we knew when we were going for the player, when we were talking about videos, that it was coming quite clear that he didn't really have a desire to leave Germany. He wanted to stay in his homeland. He wanted to be there. He had no real desire to come to the Premier League. It just feels like we've just waved loads of pound notes in his face, and that's swayed him to join. And he's kind of said that himself, that the money was too good to be true. Well, I don't want players like that. You know what I mean? It's like in any walk of life. If someone said to you, I don't want to come and work for you, I've got no interest in working for your company, and you go, I'll take your W salary then. I go, all right then. You surely wouldn't be happy with that feeling. Do you know what I mean? You want people that want to be surely there, not chasing a pound note. So terrible signing. So it looks like West Ham are going to try their best to offload him. I don't think it's going to be easy. And let's be honest, £27 million spent on him. What are we going to get back? I mean, I think you're looking at least a £10 million hit at the very least. If we got £70 million back for him, I'd be bloody surprised, to be honest. I think it's going to be more likely close to 10. That's what I really do, which would be a colossal loss for West Ham. It's also talk of Danny Ings as well, possibly moving on, but I'm not quite sure what that would benefit now at this stage. I think we do need some form of backup. And Danny Ings, I think, is actually proven to be all right when called upon this season. He's certainly not a shining light in the club, but he's been all right. He's been okay. He's been called upon and looks quite energetic and looks up for it. So I'm actually not quite. I'd rather keep him around. Actually, I think it's just worthwhile having him there at this midway point of the season. I don't want to sort of lose, Füllkrug and Ings. It seems a bit, we're going to sort of cut our nose off, spite our face a little bit. Obviously, the Jarrod Bowen situation with his injury, I think, has hampered the sale of Mohamed Kudus. I don't think West Ham will sell him in January anyway, especially now. I mean, they were talking now West Ham would want £100 million. No club's going to be spending £100 million in January on a player. I just cannot see that happening, regardless of who the club even is. I don't. There's not going to be that much going to be spent on one player. I just don't see it. So I don't think Kudus is going to go. He will be gone in the summer. I'm sure of that. I think the £85 million trip will be triggered, and I imagine it'll be Arsenal, and then we'll move him on. I know Newcastle are also interested. But again, I'd be sad to see him go because I like Kudus, great player. But at the same time, again, another player I look at, I don't see a happy soul. I don't see someone that's really, putting on that claret and blue with real pride and love. I feel like they're just sort of here thinking, looking over their shoulder, thinking about the next move. So again, I'd rather just cash in, move on, and I only want players that want to be here. But having said that, I think this Bowen injury is. That's put a nail in that for me for January. I don't think West Ham would be entertaining, as I say, unless it's a massive amount of money that gets offered, but I just don't see it happening. Max Cornet returning to West Ham. Unbelievable. I mean, What a shite signing he's turned out to be. Crying out loud. I really, it's sad because I look back at Cornet and think of that goal at Chelsea and how it could have been so different for him. And I genuinely believe if that goal had been given, I think he might have had a better time at West Ham. I think that. But the fact is now he's not doing it at Southampton and they can't wait to get shot of him. I mean, I don't know what's going on with the guy. It's a real shame because he had a half decent reputation when he was at Burnley. Do you know what I mean? I know we got warned when we signed him. A few Burnley fans said, "Yeah, hang on a minute, he goes missing, and there's a reason we went down," and they blamed him for not being available, that sort of stuff. And apparently, the rumours was at the time that if he gets a slight knock, he's out. You know what I mean? He completely rules himself out. So there was a little bit of hesitancy when we signed him. I've got to be honest. But I still thought, he's a good player. He scored goals for Burnley. He's done it at Premier League level. But my word, he has been absolutely shocking. A terrible, terrible signing. And we look like we're getting him back. So West Ham will try, according to X, to get rid of him again in January. But, I mean, you're better off just trying to tear his contract up, I think. I think at this stage, who's going to bloody buy him? I mean, you've got to be seriously desperate. The team at the bottom of the league don't want him. You know what I mean? That's how bad things are for that player now. It's sad to see, really. Another player returning, that will possibly return, is James Ward-Prowse. No, not really. He's sort of bit part used at Nottingham Forest. Obviously, Nottingham Forest having a fabulous season and bloody fair play to him. Do you know what? I wouldn't be too upset having him back. I actually think he gives us another option in midfield. It's a position. It's a part of the pitch we've seriously struggled with this season. Obviously, the signings in Rodriguez haven't worked, and I just think. Looking back at letting him go, I think was a big mistake. Now, as far as we understand it as well, Lopetegui made him vice captain when he first came in and then got rid of him. So that didn't look very good. So I wonder what his mindset is in terms of returning to West Ham. But as a fan and wanting to see West Ham obviously get better this season and try to improve, I actually don't think having Ward-Prowse back's a big problem for us. I think he's all right. He's an all right midfielder. He's been in the Premier League long enough, and also he's got that set piece ability. So if there's an opportunity to bring him back in, I'd be quite happy with it. I've got to be honest. As a sort of temporary measure for this season, I don't think it's a bad thing. So there's a chance that we could be having him back. Cornet on the other hand, no, please just keep him away from this team as much as possible because he is a dog. So then let's talk about players coming in. We'll come to Evan Ferguson in a minute because he's kind of the big one. West Ham are looking at Chukwuemeka from Chelsea. We talked about him previously. Apparently still a target. He'll bring that athleticism that we really need, I think. But the fact he sort of operates more on the left, I'm not quite sure. I know he can operate as well as a bit of more of an attacking midfielder, but it's someone that we were looking at. And I know that he's massively highly rated, just hasn't really been given that chance at Chelsea. And he could like to revive his career and get it up and running a little bit. I don't think would be a bad option, but it's also Dewsbury Hall, West Ham are looking at Chelsea as well as a potential, but West Ham would have to only have the ability to sign one on loan. So there's a little bit of an issue there, but let's wait and see how that one pans out. But West Ham are in talks apparently with Chelsea at the moment, so something could happen. I think Chukwuemeka is probably the more likely at this stage. But again, it's still very early days and it's hard to see exactly what's happened. But these are firm. I only talk about the firm ones that Exeter talked about. He has mentioned some other players' names. We'll come to them later in other videos and stuff. I'm talking about the ones, this is where we've got a bit more meat behind the bones. You know what I mean? I do think there's something there. So, yeah, there we go. We've got Chukwuemeka, as I say, Dewsbury Hall, and the other one, of course, is Evan Ferguson. So West Ham are in talks with Brighton. Now, as far as we understand it, Brighton are a little bit reluctant at the moment. I think they're basing it on the fact that they're a bit concerned with Danny Welbeck's fitness and they don't want to sort of cut their nose off, spite their face at the moment. So I think there's a bit of an issue there at this stage because that's not really going to suit us at all because we need to get a deal done quickly. We haven't got time for this. We're going to wait until February or end of January to do a deal. I don't want that. I want West Ham to get a deal done. So talks are ongoing, and what we understand is it's going to be a loan with an obligation to buy, but they're not going to agree the fee until the end of the season. So I'm not quite sure how that kind of works. Maybe it'll be that West Ham get first refusal. I don't really know how it's going to work. So it feels like it's a bit of a complex one. The only thing I've got with Evan Ferguson, don't get me wrong, I think would be a statement signing. I think he's a great player, young, and I think he's got all the abilities. He reminds me a little bit of Dean Ashton, like that sort of standard of player. But like Dean Ashton as well, I'm worried about his injuries. I've got to be honest. I feel like he seems like a player that's forever on the sidelines and got issues. So I'm a little bit concerned. But it appears that West Ham are going to try and push this over the line. So It's interesting. I mean, obviously, one thing X has made very clear as well that the whole Lopetegui situation, Grandpa, is also an issue because we don't know who's going to be in charge. So it's a real mess at West Ham. But this is all down to David Sullivan. He's created this. He could have dealt with this a while ago, made the changes we need in terms of our head coach, and then we could have gone into this window with a bit more optimism. But this is down to our owner once again. So, but that's where we are. Look, that's the update. As I say, when things go a little bit clearer, we'll go to more concrete stuff as well. But at the moment, there's a few loose players that are being linked with. But I mean, you're going to get that quite a fair bit. We're going to talk about those in the coming days, of course. But as I say, at the moment, then, in terms of just to summarise, then outgoings at the moment: Rodriguez, Fulkrug, and possibly Danny Ings. But I don't think I'll be surprised if that happened. Mohamed Kudus is unlikely to leave in January now, especially because of Jared Bowen's injury. Cornet and James Ward-Prowse could potentially be returning. West Ham desperately want to get rid of Cornet. James Ward-Prowse, I think, would be welcome back into the fold, to be honest. And you've got Chelsea loans we're looking at. We're in talks to Chelsea at the moment, with Chukwuemeka and Dewsbury Hall being potentials. I think Chukwuemeka is more likely. And Evan Ferguson talks are ongoing. So we're hoping to get a deal struck with them, which could be a loan with an obligation to buy. So that's where we are at the moment. This is going to be a busy, busy month for West Ham, and one they bloody got to get right because this season needs saving and fast. Come on, you irons.